But first, the biggest story of the week was undoubtedly Victoria's Anti-Corruption Commission, probing allegations of branch stacking by MPs and taxpayer-funded staff, as well as misuse of grants for political purposes. The inquiry was triggered by a 9 News investigation last year, which led to the then Victorian Labor Cabinet Minister Adem Somyurek resigning. Since then, the party has been thrown into chaos with a raft of senior resignations. And this week, the story became especially interesting with the testimony of a federal Labor MP, Anthony Byrne.
It's corruption Mr Byrne witnessed and played a part in since the day he was elected in 1999.
It took place within your office?
It did.
The federal MP admitting he hired recruiters on the public purse, knowing they'd never work a day in his office at the request of Adem Somyurek.
You employed him 4 months? He was paid 4 months?
Yes.
And he never once turned up to your office?
No.
Up until yesterday, Byrne was the Deputy Chair of the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security, providing oversight of Australia's security services, position he held for 16 years. Despite Byrne's admissions that he paid thousands of dollars to renew party memberships on behalf of others and diverted taxpayer-funded employees for party political purposes, federal Labor leader Anthony Albanese was stonewalling.
Appropriate to preempt their findings and those processes. That's very clear when you have legal matters taking place.
And was the media buying this excuse? 3AW's Neil Mitchell disagreed with Albanese.
Anthony Byrne, a federal Labor MP, has admitted to branch stacking. Now, the IBAC inquiry isn't able to look at things federal, but Anthony Albanese is going to have to. The federal leader's got to act on this. He's declined to comment to us today, but he will need to act eventually. You can't have a bloke sitting there in sensitive jobs. He's not the Deputy Chair of the Intelligence Committee, for heaven's sake. You can't have him sitting there when he admits to doing this.
And 2GB's Ben Fordham was having none of it when Albanese used the same excuse for stonewalling.
You have got an integrity test here. You've got a bloke in your party who you happen to be friendly with who has confessed to being involved in a sophisticated branch stacking operation. Talk about failure of leadership, Albo. Come on.
Anthony Byrne isn't a minister, mate.
Who cares what he is? He's an MP in your party and you're willing...
He's not a minister.
You're willing to let him sit there.
Ben.
What does that matter? What does that matter?
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious.
You do not understand what being a member of the executive...
But Shadow Attorney General Mark Dreyfus got a far easier run when interviewed by ABC's Patricia Karvelas over this issue.
That's very significant. Mr Byrne's role here in a yet-to-be-completed inquiry is very much that of a whistleblower. Of course, he's also giving evidence about his own involvement, but...
He may have assisted, but he also did what we know is against the party rules. So that doesn't mean you don't get consequences just because you fess up, right?
Yeah, I think the right course here is to wait until this IBAC inquiry is completed.
And soon a common theme emerged in the ABC's coverage.
The central issue so far is branch stacking within the Labor Party. That's not illegal. I mean, I understand it's a terrible practice, but it's an internal party practice. It's not a breach of the Electoral Act, is it? Or is it? I mean, branch stacking, as you say, it's a breach of Labor Party rules, it's a breach of Liberal Party rules, but it's not illegal. But if it comes to using taxpayer funds, that's different.
While branch stacking is against Labor Party rules, it's not illegal unless public funds or taxpayer-funded staff are involved.
Remember, branch stacking isn't actually illegal, but it is banned under the Labor Party rules. So while Anthony Byrne has admitted to doing it, he's not actually broken the law. He is also a federal member, so even though he is a witness in the Victorian IBAC, it has no jurisdiction over him. So there's really nowhere for this to go at a federal level.
Just an internal party matter. No laws broken. Nowhere to go at the federal level. Try again. 9 News described this as corruption, which is exactly what it is, a corruption of the democratic process. And to claim Byrne's broken no laws is a big call, especially during the first few days of a 5-week inquiry. But all of the semantics aside, I can't help but wonder where are all of the journalists who have pursued conservative politicians, such as Christian Porter, before they were convicted or had adverse findings published against them. Some federal MPs supposedly get the benefit of the doubt, while others are told their positions are untenable by the media, despite no adverse rulings or convictions. Thankfully, Byrne stood down from the Intelligence Committee, but if you had been watching the ABC this week, you'd wonder why he needed to go at all. Now let's bring in the panel. I'm joined by columnists Caroline De Russo and Caleb Bond from the Herald Sun. Caleb, let's start with you. You're in Victoria. You've been watching this play out in the media. Have you seen evidence of a double standard in the coverage?
Well, I mean, the ABC seems to be at pains to say every time they mention this whole IBAC matter that, you know, what Byrne has done isn't necessarily illegal, it's just against the Labor Party rules. I'm not entirely sure why they keep having to point that out. He has given an admission, he's given evidence to IBAC that not only did he break the Labor Party rules, but he is suggesting that there has been misuse of public funds in Victoria. Now, any other person, if they face a court, for instance, I don't want to start comparing IBAC or ICACs or any of these star chambers, as they often can be, to courts, but anyone who stands up in court charged with something has the ability to give as much or as little evidence as they like. But at the point that they plead guilty, they admit that they did something, it is accepted that they did the wrong thing by their own admission. And Byrne, to his credit, has done that. He said, this is what happened, this is what I saw, this is what I was involved with. He gave evidence that was against his own interests. So why is it in the interests of anybody else to defend that or to go to some degree to try and downplay that? Oh, it's not illegal, it's not illegal. I mean, sure, it's not illegal, but it is wrong. And the question we have to ask, and the question that any journalist ought to be asking of any politician of any stripe, is that if you don't have the integrity to obey the rules of your own party, how can we trust that you have integrity in any other part of your job? You know, that's what we are meant to do as journalists, you know, keeping the bastards honest. That's what we're here for. And if we start making excuses for politicians, any politician, for why they may have done things, and we try to downplay when they have admitted their own wrongdoing, I think we do the viewers, the listeners, the readers a disservice.
Yeah, Caroline, that's such a good point. These are his own admissions. It's not as if he's going in there and he's defending them and he's denying them all and there's people that are fronting allegations against them. He's walking into this committee, he's pointing the finger at a lot of different people and he's personally admitting to all of this. Don't we have to take him on his word?
Well, I think we do. And the thing here is, Jack, you know, there is a difference between making an admission as to what you did personally and giving evidence as to what you think someone else has done or someone else has been involved in. So in those circumstances, and particularly there's a lot more witnesses to come and give evidence, there is a chance that someone else is going to give evidence that is going to challenge what he has said that someone else has done. And in that circumstances, it's then for the inquiry, it's then for the commissioner to weigh that evidence and make a finding. So where you have friction in evidence, then that really is a matter for the finding of the commission. Where you give evidence as to what you personally did, that's an admission and that carries a lot of weight. And it's very unlikely that there is going to be witnesses later through the commission to say, no, Anthony Byrne didn't do any of the stuff that he said he did. And if they did give that evidence, well, then query how much weight the commissioner would give to you know, that second part of the evidence when Anthony Byrne has said what he's done personally.
Yeah, exactly. For the ABC to publish a narrative that they have already concluded what he did was not illegal seems completely wild to me, because it just takes one taxpayer-funded staff member from an electoral office to be involved in that, and then taxpayer funds were misappropriated.